It's fascinating to watch the spin with New York City. So he got just over 50%. Is it a huge win? Or did he luck out from having an extraordinary flawed opponent who he got to run against twice? Right? Cuomo was, if you want to run an outsider race and you want to run against the establishment, and you said, give me an opponent who oozes establishment, but nobody likes. And you asked ChatGPT to come up with somebody, they would have said, hey, let me introduce you to former New York Governor Andrew Cuomo. So I find myself wondering, another thing that surprised me on Tuesday night, and something that I was wrong about a week ago. I think I hinted here. I said, I, you know, why do I think that Cuomo could collapse here because of where he was on the ballot, and that maybe that Curtis Sliwa, was he going to overperform? Well, then a bunch of stuff happened, right? All this late money came in for Cuomo. Bloomberg came in with the late endorsement. He spent money on Cuomo's behalf. Trump comes in with the late endorsement. And I do think, despite what some of the voters said to our on the ground correspondents for our election night special, the news girls, Mabel and Ren, despite what was said, that, oh no, Trump doesn't tell me what to do, it's hard not to conclude because, first of all, Republican voters traditionally vote on election day more often, because part of it is Trump has almost conditioned his base voters, you should vote on election day, vote on election day. And so he has more election day voters. So that last minute endorsement, I think, mattered. So, Staten Island goes dramatically for Cuomo. And you see Sliwa's support just collapsed as it became a anti. So I look at the Mamdani race, and it was essentially, I looked at it as it turned into almost like a judicial retention race in Pennsylvania, up or down on Mamdani, right? Cuomo was simply a vehicle for those that said no to Mamdani, right? People weren't voting for Cuomo. They were simply voting against Mamdani. Cuomo got 41%. I don't buy that there was many positive Cuomo voters. Let's assume half of those folks were positive. That means about half his support was just simply anti-Mamdani. Um, would, and this is an interesting little, I don't know what the answer is, but would let's say the police commissioner had been on the ballot, would Mamdani have won? So was Mamdani's 50.6 an impressive showing with a massive turnout? Or did the massive turnout happen because it drove some of his vote, but it also drove some of the anti-Mamdani vote? I think that's something that I would like almost a bit more. I want more data on this one. I'd like a little bit more after action report. I'd like a post-election survey here on this, because it is notable that Mikey Sherrill outperformed Harris in New Jersey. Abigail Spanberger outperformed Harris in Virginia. But Mamdani technically underperformed Harris in New York City, right? Now, granted, one of his chief opponents was a well-known member of a prominent Democratic family. He was not on the ballot as a D, but obviously, there was plenty of sort of more centrist Democrats that likely picked Cuomo. So I really think if you want to believe that the progressive movement is on the march, you're going to look for a spin that shows Mamdani overperforming. I think he benefited from his opponents. But you know what? So did AOC benefit from the rescheduling of a primary in a unique period, and she won and beat an incumbent because, hey, those were the rules of the moment. She met the moment, and her primary opponent didn't. Is it true that it was a quirky time in the election calendar, that it was the only time that New York had split its federal primaries from its state primaries, so voters probably weren't all aware that there were going to be two different primary days in the same election year, right? There was a few quirks here or there that maybe under another circumstance, AOC never wins a primary for the U.S. Congress under different. And maybe if Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer weren't caught napping when Andrew Cuomo and decided he wanted to be mayor, and they decided to do nothing about it. They had recruited somebody a bit more viable in sort of in that wing of the party. Maybe Mamdani never catches fire, right? Having good life insurance is incredibly important. I know from personal experience. I was 16 when my father passed away. We didn't have any money. He didn't leave us in the best shape. My mother, single mother now, widow, myself, 16, trying to figure out how am I going to pay for college. And lo and behold, my dad had one life insurance policy that we found. It wasn't a lot, but it was important at the time. And it's why I was able to go to college. Little did he know how important that would be in that moment. Well, guess what? That's why I am here to tell you about Ethos Life. They can provide you with peace of mind knowing your family is protected, even if the worst comes to pass. Ethos is an online platform that makes getting life insurance fast and easy, all designed to protect your family's future in minutes, not months. There's no complicated process, and it's 100% online. There's no medical exam required. You just answer a few health questions online. You can get a quote in as little as 10 minutes, and you can get same-day coverage without ever leaving your home. You can get up to $3 million in coverage, and some policies start as low as $2 a day. That would be billed monthly. As of March 2025, Business Insider named Ethos the #1 no medical exam instant life insurance provider. So protect your family with life insurance from Ethos. Get your free quote at ethos.com/Chuck. So again, that's ethos.com/Chuck. Application times may vary, and the rates themselves may vary as well. But trust me, life insurance is something you should really think about, especially if you've got a growing family. So, obviously, I'm not gonna. I kind of lean in that Mamdani's actually underperforming what a broad coalition Democrat could get in New York City. But I also don't want to deny that this guy he is an impressive political athlete. You know, I love the phrase political athlete. And I think this is an impressive athlete. I think he hurt himself at the end by doing the Islamophobia speech. I understand he got baited into that conversation by Cuomo's tactics in the last minute. And I also empathize with the fact that I think Mamdani sees himself as the guy that's got to break the barrier to mainstream Muslim Americans into the political elite. That, you know, I look at the campaign of the new lieutenant governor in Virginia, who's the first ever Muslim woman to ever win statewide office anywhere in the country. And Hazmi Ghazala is her name. She never wanted to debate. She kept an extraordinary low profile. She took what is conventional political consultant advice on that many a Muslim candidate has been told to do, which is you need to downplay any connections to Islam. You need to downplay even sort of cult, and Mamdani didn't do that. He leaned in. And I think it's simultaneously he's seen as sort of the trailblazer for Muslim Americans around the country running for office who are trying to break into being taken seriously and getting a seat at the table in the political power structure of America. And so he's been willing to sort of take this stuff on. I do think there are some voters that they don't want to, they want to put blinders on to this. Okay, I don't know how else to put it, but they just do. They'll support you if you're downplaying it, right? Look, African American candidates at first were told this all the time. Don't lean into the black community, don't, back off. Jewish candidates back when they first started running for office, downplay your identity. Many a woman candidate in the early days of women breaking the glass ceiling in executive offices, same thing. So this is not a new thing. So I say this in that I think what Mamdani is doing for future Muslim Americans running for office is going to be of help to them. They will deal with less Islamophobia, less questioning of whether they can win elections. But do I think it hurt him a little bit at the end where he might have been on his way to 53, 54, 55? and that bringing that into the message, because I think there are a chunk of New York City voters who like his message but don't want him to be an international foreign policy expert, right? That no matter what his views are about foreign policy, they don't want him to use the platform of New York City mayor to express them. I think there are some that want him to do that. And that's going to be an interesting decision, how he chooses to go about that. How often does he use his platform to talk about issues around the world versus issues in the 5 boroughs? But I do think he slightly underperformed. When you look at the broader Democratic success throughout the night, that you could say, and that and again, I look at it as, I think New York City became a Mamdani referendum, which may explain why Cuomo got as close as he did with his 41%.
There's a reason results matter more than promises. Just like there's a reason Morgan & Morgan has become America's largest injury law firm. For the last 35 years, they've recovered $25 billion for more than 500,000 clients. It includes cases where insurance companies offered next to nothing, short of shortchanging, seeing if they could get away with it. And Morgan & Morgan fought back, and they won millions. In Pennsylvania, one client was awarded $26 million. It was a staggering 40 times the amount that the insurance company originally offered. That offer, $650,000, whatever it took to sort of get away without paying. So with more than 1,000 lawyers across the country, Morgan & Morgan knows how to deliver for everyday people. So if you're injured, you're looking for a lawyer, check out forthepeople.com/Toddcast or dial pound law, pound 529 on your cell phone. And remember, all law firms are not the same. So give Morgan & Morgan a look. Their fee is free unless they win.